I know it hurts, ladies and gentlemen. I know it hurts, but we have reached the final segment of this edition of In My Own Words, the podcast, Touchdown Alabama Magazine's own Stephen M. Smith. You better believe it, yours truly, holding it down. Before we get into the final segment, some good news for Crimson Tide fans. And throughout this week, starting on Monday, got a lot of the doom and the gloom, whether it was just out and about or if you tune into The Way It Is, a show I do with my good friend Jordan Campbell, Fox 97.9 FM in the Muscle Shoals, Florence area. Check that show out weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time. Once again, the show entitled The Way It Is. Whether it was on that show or out and about, a lot of Alabama fans extremely concerned about the defense, the linebacking core, how will the team look this week against Mercer. Mercer of all people, Mercer of all programs. We actually have Alabama fans that are making hashtag Mercer Hate Week. Don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, I understand the biggest concern is how do you play, how do you execute, how do you perform in your demolition of Mercer, because Alabama is going to torch the Bears. If you don't think Alabama is going to torch the Bears, there's something wrong with you. But I can see in the demolition of how you want to play Mercer and beat Mercer why the concern would be there. But some good news for Crimson Tide fans. Christian Miller, Nick Saban talked about it on Wednesday. Christian Miller, Terrell Lewis in the final process of the functional rehab, which means they are literally just moments from being cleared. Just a matter of time before the medical staff finally gives the green light to clear both guys. Christian Miller, who suffered a torn biceps muscle week 1 of the season against Florida State, a young man that is a 5-star recruit, former 5-star recruit from Columbia, South Carolina. His father, Corey Miller, played in the National Football League for the New York Football Giants. Christian Miller, who gained 10 extra pounds, going from 230 to 240 pounds, to gain that strength and that physicality at the attack point. When you talk about being a pass rusher, he and Terrell Lewis were both pegged to be marquee guys this season. Unfortunately, both got hurt against Florida State. But Christian Miller, shortly after the injury and the surgery, went straight into rehab. Terrell Lewis, he had started a week or so after Miller's, but Miller went directly into rehab after the injury and the surgery. So at this point, he is far more along, and he's more than likely, if not at 90, close to 90% or better to being back on that field. Nick Saban brought it up that they're waiting for the medical staff to give the clearance, but according to a video that Christian Miller posted on Twitter earlier in the day, it's a video of him having the injury against Florida State, and then the announcement of, him being out for the year, and then there is this crazy WWE shot where you got Randy Orton, who apparently had already beaten The Undertaker before, and then he's sitting here fighting back people, trying to see who's coming out of the door onto the arena fighting, and he looks as if he has just seen a ghost. Randy Orton sees these guys carrying this casket. Of course, we all know how much staging goes into wrestling, but Randy Orton sees these guys carrying this casket. All of a sudden, the casket catches on fire. I don't know what, special effect went into that. And then out comes The Undertaker, the guy that Randy Orton beat, who he thought, this guy's never coming back. The Undertaker comes back out of the exploding casket, like Moses finding the burning bush, and goes into the ring, and Randy Orton's acting like, oh no, cannot believe that happened. looking like he had just went some type of self-induced trance, if you will. When I look at that, could you give an image of, The Undertaker coming out of exploding casket and Randy Orton being scared, with the Randy Orton being scared picture insinuate the Auburn Tigers and the rest of college football, knowing that Christian Miller, his return, according to reports, is scheduled to be back for the Iron Bowl? Could it be Miller's way of alerting college football, hey, I'm back, get ready? Could be. Could very well be. One thing for certain, Crimson Tide fans are ready to see Christian Miller back on the field. No question about it. As for Terrell Lewis, right now, the ideal spot for him would be the Southeastern Conference Championship game if Bama gets in. Terrell Lewis slotted for the Southeastern Conference Championship game if Alabama gets in. As for Mack Wilson, since we're on injury updates, Mack Wilson could be back by either the SEC title game or the college football playoff semifinal game. Once again, pending Alabama gets in. Has to beat Auburn first. Well, technically has to beat Mercer first, but y'all get my point. Rashaan Evans right now is the one-man wrecking crew. We saw Rashaan Evans last week against Mississippi State, had 9 tackles, was just flying all over the field, putting guys in spots, whether it's linebackers, defensive linemen, really a one-man show out there. Brother needs some help. And whether that help comes from Dylan Moses, who Nick Saban has been very high on when you talk about his understanding, progression of the system, getting things down, getting things in order. The team being high on the 6'3", 232-pound freshman backer from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The excitement is real on Dylan Moses, and it's supposed to be. And then after him, you look at Jamie Mosley, Anthony Jennings. As much as Keith Holcomb probably did not have his best game against Mississippi State, could not free himself off blocks, could not make the tackle when he needed to make the tackle, did not show the intensity that's needing to be shown when you're at the linebacker position. It could be one of those moments where he just had a bad game, you don't know. But at this point, Keith Holcomb's got to get better. Because when you're playing against an Auburn team in the coming weeks or in the week following this week, and a team that's surging on offense, Jarrett Stidham's finding his stride. The offensive line led by Braden Smith is pretty darn good. Kerryon Johnson, one of the more elite backs right now in the last couple of months or last couple of weeks in college football, both in the run game and in the passing game for Auburn. Kerryon Johnson's the real deal. Now, I don't know why the Tigers will not trust Cam Martin. I don't know why for the life of me. Why Auburn and Gus Malzahn and Chip Lindsey do not trust Cam Martin. But whatever the case may be is on them. They trust Kerryon Johnson. He's doing his thing. Darius Slayton making catches at wide receiver. Of course, you also have Eli Stove, Nate Craig Myers, and Ryan Davis. But in terms of Alabama, this week, what I really want to see against Mercer is just plain assignment football. That's what I want to see. Alabama on the defensive line, playing assignment football, filling your gaps, getting a push off the snap, and affecting plays in the backfield. We did not see a lot of Daron Payne, Deshaun Hand, Raekwon Davis, Isaiah Buggs disrupting plays, in the backfield. Isaiah Buggs did disrupt one play in particular, getting to Nick Fitzgerald on the throw before the Hail Mary in the fourth quarter, but Buggs had a difficult time bringing Fitzgerald down, did not finish the play. Quinnen Williams was probably one of few defensive linemen that when he came in, he affected plays in the backfield and finished the play in question. Got to see more defensive linemen finish the play against Mercer. Truly believe defensive line coach Carl Dunbar knows how to answer the bell on that question. Number 2, at linebacker. Getting the guys that you can trust this week that can go out there against Auburn the following week and make something happen. You already know what you have in Rashaan Evans. Since his return from the groin injury, he has been magnificent. He's been that dog. He's been that leader. He's been that voice. He has been that play-making force. Rashaan Evans has done his job. You cannot ask any more from that man than what he's done. He's done his job. Aside from him, you got Keith Holcomb. Of course, Dylan Moses, the individual that has a bit more upside and could see way more playing time on Saturday. Excuse me. Got to get the days of the week right in there. Also, Jamie Mosley, Anthony Jennings. To me, if I had to put my 4 linebackers on the field in Alabama's base 3-4 set, I would go Rashaan Evans inside, Dylan Moses weak side, Jamie Mosley strong side, Anthony Jennings jack rush linebacker, and just go from there. That's what I would do. Once again, I'm not Nick Saban. I'm not making $11.1 million, but that's what I would do. I would have Rashaan Evans inside, Dylan Moses weak side, Anthony Jennings jack, Jamie Mosley strong side linebacker, and just go from there. And nickel and dime, nickel, I would have Rashaan Evans inside, Dylan Moses weak side, and would probably just walk down Anthony Jennings from the jack to like another defensive end type. Still giving you 3 linebackers on the field. Just one is now basically a 4th lineman because you're giving yourself a nickel 4-2-5 look. If you catch my drift there. And then in dime, I really like Rashaan and Dylan Moses. Moses has a lot of upside. But once again, this is Saban's decision, not mine. I'm just giving you my rundown if I had to call it. But to make a long story short, at the linebacker position, reading your gaps, looking at your keys, tackling in space, hitting the different areas to affect the quarterback and affect the run game. That's what you want from the linebacker position. Guys you can trust this week so that when you go into the Iron Bowl, you have no concerns. That's the message for this week. Do what you got to do on this field to play winning football without giving the coaching staff any concerns. That's the biggest thing. In the secondary for Alabama, I'm excited to see Deonte Thompson. Really excited to see Deonte Thompson in this secondary. Because he's a guy that has the football IQ. He's a guy that's got some size on him, 6'2", 194 pounds. He can hit. He can wrap up. He negates yards after the catch. He also negates yards after contact. He's a big-time player. Also, going back to the offseason, starting with spring practice, he's been Minkah Fitzpatrick's understudy at that safety spot this whole time. Fitzpatrick, who hurt his hamstring against LSU, struggled against Mississippi State with having that speed, burst, and quickness. You could tell that he was still wincing in pain, was not 100%. Despite Alabama having Monday off from practice this week, they went to work on Tuesday and Wednesday. Fitzpatrick, seen in a black non-contact jersey, did not fully participate. So you can pretty much basically state that he will not go against Mercer. Probably will, but In my opinion, if you don't practice Tuesday or Wednesday, two of your bigger days of practice, you ain't going. Nick Saban already had him listed as day-to-day. Don't think Minka's going. Which would put Deonte Thompson in that safety spot at regular 3-4 for Alabama, possibly nickel and dime also, depending on, well, definitely in regular and dime, but maybe nickel also if you choose to have him over Hootie Jones. As of right now, like I mentioned, Deonte Thompson, the better football IQ between him and Hootie Jones when it comes down to on-the-field aspects. Thompson this year, 12 tackles on the season, 9 solo stops, has been really good on special teams, been a honoree or nominee for Player of the Week by the coaching staff multiple times this season. Somebody that when he enters the game on defense is making plays, big hits, big tackles. Really looking forward to seeing Deonte Thompson this week against Mercer. If we flip this over to the offense, the one offensive concern is no Rosh Pierschbacher this week. Sustained a high ankle sprain against Mississippi State early on. According to reports, could be out between 2 to 4 weeks. Crimson Tide fans want to have him back for the Iron Bowl. Could have him back, probably not, but could. Once again, 2 to 4 weeks for Pierschbacher with the high ankle sprain. I understand he is a huge part of the front line, 3-year starter at left guard. 3-year starter at left guard, Rosh Pierschbacher. Once a 4-star recruit from Cedar Fall, Iowa. But even with him out, I still look at J.C. Hassan as somebody that's no slouch. He can get it done. Now, if you look at Hassanauer's size, yes, he's 6'2". Yes, he's 295 pounds. So when you look at him, your first thought is, oh, he's one of the smaller offensive linemen, if not the smallest offensive lineman on this team. But despite that boy's size, he is sound to the core technically. Has a strong core and is sound to the core. Hassanauer, much like Pierschbacher when he came in, 2014 signing class, 4-star prospect. Was number 190 on the ESPN 300. One of the nation's top center and guard prospects when he enrolled. Nick Saban spoke a lot of good things about Hassanauer following the Mississippi State game. On the final drive in which Jalen Hurts went 3 of 4 passing for 72 yards, including the 26-yard game-winning touchdown pass to Devonta Smith, J.C. Hassanauer handled his business on that drive. Did not allow pressure to Jalen Hurts from his side on that drive. Big job there by J.C. Hassanauer. Alabama, as always, in need to go back to establishing the run game against Mercer. That will be huge. Did not really get that going until late in the Mississippi State game. Struggled with the run game against LSU, seeing how the Tigers were having the 8- and 9-man front in the box. So this week against Mercer, have to reestablish that run game with Damian Harris, Josh Jacobs, Bo Scarborough, what have you. Saban much so very adamant about getting Josh Jacobs the ball more. And why wouldn't he be? Josh Jacobs provided the much-needed spark against the Bulldogs. I know people look at 6 carries for 36 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 catches for 18 yards as not much of a spark, but Damian Harris and Bo Scarborough did not get going until Josh Jacobs got going. That's a spark. Jacobs' touchdown tied the game at 14 in the first half for Alabama against the Bulldogs at Davis-Wade Stadium in Starkville. So, not being overly concerned about the line, even with Pierschbacher out, Hassanauer in, establishing the run game, or reestablishing the run game, as I should say. And number 3, the continuation of Jalen Hurts showing the entire fan base, look, I can lead this team. That's number 3. The continuation of Jalen Hurts showing this Alabama fan base, again, I can lead this team both running and throwing the ball. I'm driving this bus. Either get down with the get down and get on, or don't. Either you getting on this bus or no. So, that's Jalen Hurts for you. Showing the Alabama Crimson Tide faithful that he is the real deal, again, when it comes down to leading and guiding this team to wins. As we recap this, defensively for Alabama against Mercer, number 1, defensive line getting this push, affecting the pass game and the run game of Mercer. Number 2, Alabama linebackers, read your keys, hit your gaps, follow what you need to follow in order to play winning football, giving your coaching staff something to look for, something to trust in looking toward playing Auburn the following week. In the secondary, no Minkah Fitzpatrick, but Deonte Thompson. It's his time. Alabama will lose 6 to 7 DBs following this season. Deonte Thompson comes back. Now is the time for him to assume his spot as the man of the defense next year. Once again, Alabama losing 6 DBs, 6 to 7 defensive backs. Deonte Thompson comes back. He is going to be a huge staple next season, but let's let him start that staple against Mercer. Flipping this to offense, recapping that, no Raj Pierschbaker. You got J.C. Hassan. He can get it done. Once again, former 4-star prospect, one of the nation's top center and guard recruits when he came in during the 2014 recruiting cycle. Number 190 on the ESPN 300, and plus he played pretty well against Mississippi State. Getting your run game reestablished, number 2. Didn't have it going against LSU or the Bulldogs. Have it going against the Mercer Bears. Number 3, Jalen Hurts, proving again, I can lead this group of fellas. Group of savages. Let's do it. Strong show this week. Strong edition of In My Own Words this week. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a chance to recap Jalen Hurts' performance against Mississippi State as he put the team on his back for a second year in a row, and this time put in the game-winning touchdown to Devonta Smith. Jalen Hurts showing you, if you don't account for my arm, baby boo, I'm going to tomahawk you. Throwing the football. And he did it against Mississippi State. We looked at Devonta Smith in terms of why the open practice deserves more stock on it than A-Day. Love A-Day. Huge A-Day fan. Enjoy the pageantry of A-Day. But if you want to see the real guys, the real stars, the real marquee names come out, march yourself down to that open practice 4 months later in August. Yeah, it's hot. It's not very comfortable, but you will see the real dogs at that open practice. Devonta Smith showed last week, that boy a real dog. And he got his start. Where? That open practice. And then last but not least, Alabama, Mercer, what does the Tide need to do? In helping Rashaan Evans at linebacker, getting some guys out there that you can trust as you prepare your tape for Auburn. Christian Miller, that video he put up on Twitter today has people very excited. He is scheduled to make his return for the Iron Bowl. Tide fans are very pumped up. But for right now, you got to face Mercer and get the job done against Mercer. As always, you can catch the podcast, Facebook, Twitter, segments to be put on Touchdown Alabama magazine. Get into it, folks. I know it's taking me a minute. Get into it. Bama Sports Radio, though. If you crave a venue where you're getting the best in audio commentary, podcast show commentary, from the best writers, bloggers, analysts, when it comes down to the team you crave, you enjoy, you lust to watch for on Saturdays in the fall, that being the Alabama Crimson Tide, gotta check out Bama Sports Radio. They the plug. They got you covered over there at Bama Sports Radio. For all of us here at Touchdown Alabama Magazine, yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your weekend. Get a chance to watch the game. And until next time, folks, so long, everybody.